Let's get right into it. Number 10, the brain battery myth. You've probably heard the classic excuse, I'll do it later, I'm just out of energy right now. Sounds reasonable, right? Except your brain isn't a phone that runs out of battery because you open too many tabs of cat memes. The truth is, procrastination has less to do with laziness and more to do with how your brain regulates emotions. Psychologists call it ego depletion, but that term is basically a scam your brain cooked up. When you put off work, it's not because you're lazy, it's because your brain is avoiding the stress, frustration, or boredom that comes with the task. Imagine you've got an essay due, but writing feels like chewing on dry paper. Instead of suffering, your brain chooses the sweet, sugary dopamine rush of watching 5 hours of cooking videos despite the fact you don't even own a frying pan. This isn't laziness, it's emotional regulation, dodging negative feelings by choosing something fun, even if it's useless. Ironically, avoiding the work usually makes you more stressed, which then fuels more procrastination. Congratulations, you've trapped yourself in the world's dumbest anxiety spiral. Your brain isn't tired, it's just a professional escape artist, and the task you're avoiding is the box it refuses to unlock. Number 9, the time-traveling brain. Here's the thing about procrastination. Your brain is a terrible time traveler. It values present you way more than future you, which is why present you eats the whole pizza and future you gets to deal with the stomachache. Scientists call this temporal discounting. Basically, your brain looks at deadlines and thinks, that's future me's problem. Let that guy suffer, so you ignore the project, binge a show, and future. You ends up crying at 3 a.m. surrounded by Red Bull cans and despair. This isn't laziness, it's literally how your brain is wired. Short-term rewards feel real, long-term consequences feel fake. It's like playing hot potato with responsibilities, except you're tossing them to yourself 2 weeks later. The wild part, when you procrastinate, you know future you will hate it, but your brain still votes for Netflix over Excel spreadsheets every single time. Translation, you're not lazy, you're just trapped in a psychological time machine that always chooses immediate pleasure over future survival. If cavemen had this problem, none of them would have hunted. They'd all be future me's problem, shivering in caves watching imaginary mammoth TV. Number 8, fear of failure, masquerade. Ever delay starting something important, not because you don't care, but because you care too much? That's procrastination's dirtiest secret. It's often rooted in perfectionism. You're not lazy, you're terrified of screwing it up. If you never start, you never risk failing. Genius, right? Except it's also self-sabotage dressed in sweatpants. Psychologists call this avoidant behavior. Your brain thinks, if I delay writing this paper, no one can judge how bad it is. In reality, all you've done is guarantee you'll write it badly under crushing pressure later. The irony? Procrastination often delivers the very failure you were trying to avoid. It's like hiding from a monster by standing in front of it and saying, please eat me slower. People who procrastinate from fear of failure often have high standards and self-criticism levels that could melt steel. They're not lazy, they're anxious overachievers who'd rather burn the house down than admit they left a crooked picture frame on the wall. So yeah, when you put something off, it's not that you don't care, it's that you care so much, your brain panic quits the entire assignment. Number 7, the dopamine hijack picture. You're supposed to be finishing a project, but suddenly the idea of reorganizing your sock drawer feels like an urgent life or death mission. That's not laziness, it's dopamine. Dopamine is your brain's reward chemical, and it absolutely loves novelty. The boring task in front of you doesn't release much dopamine, but scrolling TikTok, playing games, or Googling how tall Jeff Goldblum is feels like a jackpot. Procrastination happens because your brain is literally chasing those quick hits of pleasure instead of investing in the long, slow grind of actual work. Psychologists call this delay discounting, but really it's your brain acting like a spoiled toddler. I want the candy now, not the vegetables later. The problem is, those little dopamine snacks only leave you hungrier, and the task you're avoiding just grows fangs and claws in your imagination. Ironically, finishing the dreaded task would give you a bigger dopamine reward in the end, but your short-sighted brain can't see that far ahead. Basically, procrastination is your inner caveman choosing berries over building a shelter. Fun today, hypothermia tomorrow. Number 6, the myth of motivation. Here's a brutal truth. You don't procrastinate because you lack motivation. You procrastinate because you expect motivation to magically show up before you start. Spoiler, it won't. Motivation is the flaky friend of the psychology world, always promising they'll be there, then ghosting you the second things get tough. People often wait for the perfect moment when they'll feel ready to begin. But science says action actually comes before motivation. Once you start, even if it's just writing a dumb sentence or opening the file, your brain releases dopamine, tricking you into wanting to keep going. This is called the progress principle. We feel more motivated once we see evidence of progress, even tiny scraps of it. Translation: your problem isn't laziness, it's waiting for the inspiration fairy to tap you on the head with her glitter stick. In reality, momentum makes motivation, not the other way around. If procrastination feels like waiting for a bus that never comes, the solution is simple. Start walking, and suddenly the bus shows up right behind you honking angrily. Number 5, the stress paradox. Here's where procrastination really flips the table. A lot of people delay tasks because they're already stressed, but putting it off just creates more stress. It's the psychological equivalent of ignoring a leak until your kitchen floods. When you avoid something unpleasant, your brain gets a quick sense of relief. Phew, we don't have to deal with that right now. But behind the scenes, the stress doesn't go away, it grows like a mold colony. By the time you actually start, you're buried under double the pressure. Researchers call this the procrastination stress cycle. The act of avoidance soothes you for a moment, but the mounting pressure hits harder later. This explains why so many procrastinators say they work best under pressure. Translation: no, you don't. You just wait until you're so stressed that your body pumps out adrenaline like it's trying to save you from a tiger. And sure, that tiger energy might fuel an all-nighter, but it leaves you mentally wrecked afterward. Basically, procrastination is stress relief that comes with a 200% interest rate. Number 4, the choice overload trap. You'd think having options is great. Freedom, variety, the American dream. But when you've got too many choices, your brain freaks out like a kid in a candy store who suddenly realizes cavities are real. Psychologists call it decision paralysis, and it's one of procrastination's favorite disguises. Let's say you need to write an essay. You could start with the introduction, the body, the conclusion, the outline, the research, or, you know what? Maybe you should reorganize your desk instead. The more options you have, the harder it feels to commit, so your brain hits pause like a Netflix buffer wheel. This isn't laziness, it's mental overload. Every decision costs brain power, and your anxious mind would rather save energy by doing nothing. Ironically, choosing nothing is still a choice, just the least useful one. Studies show people are actually happier with fewer choices because it eliminates the stress of, what if I pick wrong? Translation: procrastination isn't you being unmotivated, it's your brain standing in a grocery aisle for 45 minutes debating spaghetti brands like it's a UN negotiation. Number 3, the identity crisis. Here's a wild one. Sometimes procrastination has nothing to do with the task itself, and everything to do with how it clashes with your identity. If you see yourself as a creative free spirit, sitting down to do boring, structured work feels like an attack on your soul. If you pride yourself on being independent, working on something you don't care about but have to do feels like a tiny rebellion. Psychologists say procrastination can be a form of self-protection. Your brain thinks, if I don't start, I don't have to face the fact that this doesn't align with who I am. It's like a protest march, but instead of shouting slogans, you're just scrolling Instagram in bed. The irony? By avoiding the task, you end up reinforcing the identity of being a procrastinator, which probably wasn't the vibe you were going for. Basically, your brain is busy playing identity politics with itself, and the only casualty is your deadline. Number 2, the perfectionism trap. You've probably heard this one, but let's dig deeper. Perfectionists aren't lazy, they're ambitious masochists. The fear of producing something less than flawless is so paralyzing that you delay starting at all. It's like refusing to draw because you're afraid your stick figure won't win the Louvre. But here's the kicker. Perfectionism often disguises itself as high standards. You tell yourself you're just waiting until you have the time to do it properly. In reality, you're just avoiding the discomfort of imperfection. Psychologists argue this isn't about motivation, it's about fear. Fear of judgment, fear of wasted effort, fear of being average. And ironically, by procrastinating, you guarantee the outcome will be rushed, sloppy, and way less perfect than if you had just started. It's like avoiding cooking because you want the perfect dinner, then ending up eating stale chips at midnight. Basically, procrastination isn't you being lazy, it's you protecting yourself from the imaginary jury in your head that's way harsher than reality. Number 1, the hidden anxiety engine. Here's the ultimate truth bomb. Procrastination isn't about laziness, motivation, or even Netflix being too good. At its core, it's about anxiety. Every delayed task has some kind of emotional landmine buried under it. Maybe it's fear of failing. Maybe it's fear of success. Yes, that's real. Maybe it's the crushing weight of expectations. Whatever the flavor, anxiety is the engine. When you procrastinate, you're not avoiding the task. You're avoiding the feelings attached to it. Your brain is running emotional dodgeball. If I don't start, I can't mess up. If I don't mess up, I won't feel like trash. Problem solved. Except not really. The more you dodge, the scarier the task becomes, until even writing a simple email feels like trying to defuse a bomb with a toothpick. Psychologists call this emotion-focused coping. Instead of tackling the real problem, you soothe the feelings temporarily by avoiding them. It works for about 5 minutes, then backfires spectacularly. That's why you find yourself in panic mode at 1 a.m., caffeinated to oblivion, muttering, "Why do I do this to myself?" The answer? Because your brain treats anxiety like Voldemort. It refuses to name it, so it hides under procrastination instead. The irony is, once you recognize that procrastination equals anxiety, it gets easier to break the cycle. You're not lazy, you're just trying to outwit your own nerves. Spoiler, they're winning. That's all for today. I'll be making similar videos in the future. Subscribe to see them.